502, I need a mover, council carries. Almost all in favor, the camera. All right, resolved into the committee of the whole, recommendation of council resolve itself into the committee of the whole, time at 5:03. I need a mover, council Evans, council Aries, all in favor. Thank you. All right. All right, so rezoning of the OCP amended application number 20-294-OCPZ-preliminary introductory report. So Sarah, can you give us a report on this? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The applicant, color definition is intended to be invited. Please note that the subject property is located on Temple Street, off Shuswap Avenue near Main Street, and is currently developed. The current OCP designation is residential medium density, which is consistent with the surrounding area and supports townhouses, row houses, small scale apartment buildings, and small scale mixed use buildings, commercial and residential. This designation transitions from the high density residential supported in the town center, which is shown in red on this map, to the low density residential, which is supported towards the boundary of the district, which is shown in the yellow. Of note, high density residential is supported adjacent to the town center commercial area as well. The property is currently zoned R5, medium density residential, which is consistent with the OCP designation. Surrounding R1 and 2 zone properties are designated for higher densities by the OCP, mostly high density and one lot medium density. The applicant has submitted 3 new proposals based on feedback received from their delegation to the CAL on January 27th, 2021. So here's proposal 1. Note that there's a panhandle accent for the blue parcel. So here's proposal 2, which doesn't include a panhandle. Both proposal 1 and 2 are for 3-lot subdivisions, with a smaller 1,040 square meter lot proposed to be rezoned for a single family dwelling. See the yellow parcel. The remaining larger lots would retain their existing medium density zoning. So here is proposal 3, which is for a 2-lot subdivision with one smaller 2,220 square meter lot, which is proposed to be rezoned for a single family dwelling. See the parcel in yellow. Of the 3 proposals, proposal 2 offers the most density. However, the proposed single family lot is less consistent with existing abutting lots running on Temple Street in shape and size. Proposal 1 represents a loss of 4 dwelling units and uses additional density to the panhandle. Proposal 2 represents a loss of 6 housing units, and like proposal 1 breaks up to the zone. This will impact options for development and may trigger the need for variances to requirements such as off-street parking and open space limiting provisions for building height. The single-family lot size for proposal 1 and 2 is approximately a quarter of the original proposal that the applicant brought forward in January. Proposal 3 represents a loss of 11 active units. It retains a larger area to better accommodate medium density development options, and the shape of the proposed single-family lot is consistent with the abutting parcel. However, the parcel size is significantly larger, approximately 2,320 square meters compared to approximately 1,839 square meters, which is the rated square. The single-family lot size in proposal 3 is about half the original proposed in January, which was over 4,000 square meters, so over 2,000 square meters. So that closes my presentation, and it would be much appreciated if comments could be provided for that.
Councillor Long, and Councillor McCabe.
Through the chair.
Councillor Bush.
Proposal number 3 would be probably the most logical one. I understand that the other proposals of dividing up the property is probably because you do development and not something with a array and not have your whole piece of property not worth bankrupt or whatever might happen if it fails. But in proposal number 3, the 2,320 square meters is an excessive sized lot, when the lot next door is only 1,845 square meters. If that lot was reduced to a similar size, I know the discussion was about putting a house and a shop on it, and if you can go up Shoes Walk and sit on the corner and look, that's a new house and a new there's still quite a bit of area left on that lot for a shop. So I think proposal 3 is acceptable to me, with that lot, the personal resident lot, being reduced in size, maybe even down to 2,000 meters square, just to get it more in conformity with the lot next door. That's my comment.
Thank you, Councillor Mullins. Councillor McCabe. Councillor Bush.
Yes, through the chair. Yeah, I like proposal 3 as well. I understand the other 2 concepts are, you could phase your development if you decided to put in a couple small stratas. But proposal 3 looks good to me. I mean, the other, it is a large lot, but the one next to it is fairly large, a little bit smaller, like you say. There's 2 other lots on Temple Street that are similar in size, but they're down further towards Riverside. But I do like it for that, and because it's been vacant for so long, this is going to be good to see some development in town, and it still leaves room for more housing. I mean, we do have a fair amount of affordable housing now, just starting up in town over at Trouton's property, and then of course over at Hillier Road. So yeah, looking forward to seeing this property start to take shape and have some units put on it in the near future. Thank you.
Councillor Anderson.
I agree. I think that proposal 3 is a good idea. Do we know if he is developing the property soon, or is he selling the property, or?
At this point, through the chair, he seems undecided. He may move forward with developing it, he may not, but he very much wants to get his home and his family moved out first before he starts doing it.
Any other comments? I also agree with proposal number 3 as well. And got comments from the rest of the council. So any other comments on this at this stage? Councillor Harry, go ahead.
Through the chair, I think this is a really valuable piece of property. There's not a lot of R5 in our downtown core, and I think that there's some really good developments we've got that are important to a lot of members of this community right across the street from there. And and a lot of places around the senior center. So I'm really hesitant to let somebody change this property in the interest of putting a single residence on it. So with that in mind, the smaller that the lot would be created at proposal 3, the more likely I would be to vote in favor of it. And if somebody wants to have a whole acre to play with, there's a lot of spaces around Sicamous where that's really good to do. So I'm a little bit on the fence, but to speak to what the applicant's looking for, I would be unlikely to vote in favor of as large a property as is currently shown in proposal 3. Thank you.
Mr. Parlin, do you have a comment?
I just want to commend planning for looking at 3 different options. I do support proposal 3 for all the points mentioned. We're trying to make best of what Temple is, which is an R5. It's opposite an R5 development. We know the OCP wants to densify the downtown core. This is a good compromise. I would like to see the proposed yellow area a little bit smaller, but considering everything of the 3 different options, this is by far the best proposal 3. So thank you, planning, for expediting this and looking at a compromise, looking at the applicant.
All right, any other comments? So there is a couple of recommendations here that we need to get passed by council so that Sarah can move forward with the conversation.
Just for information. Just for information.
Just for information.
It's just a recommendation by the office for that.
So that council, as I said, so there's 2 recommendations, and the council receives the staff report February 3rd, 2021 as additional introductory information for the rezoning official community plan amendment application number 20-294-OCPZ located at 222 Temple Street, and provide comment for the applicant. So I need a mover on this.
No, Terry, you don't need a number.
Don't need
It's just an informational report.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay. And also the second one, benefit of council, but council received the staff report February 3rd, 2021 as additional introductory information for rezoning official plan amendment application to 20-294 OCP located at 22 Temple Street, to provide comments for the applicant. All right. We're good?
Okay, I made it.
We're good. Okay, thanks, sir. All right, Sheila's on. Amanda? You have Sheila on?
I believe she was attending in person.
Get outside, I guess.
She's moving from her office.
No, she's
She's Chamber of Commerce. Information Center updates.
Look at this chain of events.
We remember to project when we're talking. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, everyone. We've got a chance to visit with each other. So I guess it's time for a little update so you can see what we've been doing and to talk about the last year. Certainly last year was the year of Zoom meetings and working from home. We all over hand sanitizer, I'm sure. And we learned some words like social distancing, PPE, and pivot. It didn't quite start off like that though. In 2020, it started off just like any other year. We had sluggers come, and we were really looking forward to a great season. February, we actually held our AGM, and we had 9 board members. We welcomed a great guest that evening with Thomas Bergishaw from the Innovation Center, and learned a lot about that in the seminar. We had a couple other highlights. We did manage to get the mayor's breakfast last year. And I think one of the last things we actually did when we were all together was with Rick Kylo. And had a little discussion here. We were all just starting to learn about COVID-19. And then it all happened in March. Everything came to a grinding halt for all of us. I think a lot of us took for granted, being able to come to the office and shake hands and all those things that we are all now missing. And then trying to figure out how we were all going to move forward. And that's what we had the opportunity to work on the COVID-19 recovery kit. And you can see some of the items there that we were working on. Thanks to the district of Sicamous and the funds that were provided. I had purpose and was able to become the procurement officer for all of these items. I don't think we ever talked about exactly what we purchased with all that money, but we did manage to get ourselves 120 touchless hand sanitizers that came on a very slow boat from China, but finally arrived. We had about 75 liters of jugs of hand sanitizer that we purchased from the distillery, 500 masks that we bought from Eagle Valley IEA, 20 sheets of plexiglass glass that we got from a variety of places, and 210 social distancing floor signs at the very least, and 91 chloroplast signs and 56 window kind signs. So an example of the most fun sign we did was the one that I put up there for Dex, for Dutch and Barry, who wanted their sign to say, please don't let the cap suck on your fingers. So, because people were using hand sanitizer and then going using baby caps and let them suck on their fingers, so we actually did want that on the sign, so we accommodated them. As you obviously all know, that particular project had a component that was about stimulus package being included and having a revitalization package, so hence why we used as many local providers as we could. Signs were done by TIA at that time, the distillery and the IBA helped out as well. The second part of it was to do the stimulus piece and the revitalization, so we worked with Amanda and I and did 5 big billboards that were strategically placed throughout the province. We really debated over how to handle billboards because at that time we were not allowed to really welcome people or encourage them to come. So we thought it would be great just to use pictures because pictures speak volumes, especially when you've got a scenery as beautiful as ours. And all we said was Sicamous live more, and had some really great photography done and spread that out throughout the area. And then we did a 17-minute video that we worked with all of our businesses in town. So they all had an opportunity to say that they were open and how they had put things into place to welcome visitors. We had a really great photographer and a director team that went out with us to do that. So it was a lot of fun, and you've all watched it before. It is very long, but it is entertaining. It's still on our YouTube channel. On the more serious side, our chamber represented our entire region on a task force with all of the BC chambers and relayed information back to all the chambers in our area. We met on a weekly basis. And from that grew our local task force, which Amanda and I worked on together as well, and tried to meet. At first we were weekly, then we went to monthly, so that our local partners could all have an opportunity to ask questions or provide information. So it was very useful, and we gave them a platform to actually have discussions. Anybody who was involved in any of the COVID-19 discussions, it was quite obvious there was a real need for people to be able to talk and be able to reach out because there was a lot of isolation. So it was a good opportunity for them to feel like there was a team out there that was supporting them. And then we hosted our very first Zoom meeting as a chamber for Mel Arnold. That was in May. And then came June and July, and we started to talk about how we could reopen and welcome visitors all at the same time. So there was a lot that had to be put into place to ensure that we protected our staff and our visitors. You can see there's 2 right there with the plexiglass and the signage. And then we had to become a bit more creative because we needed to get out there and talk to visitors, but we also wanted to be able to provide our staff a safe way to do it. You'll see that we actually manufactured our own little kiosks out of plexiglass, chloroplast, and some signs or shelving from Canadian Tire. And it worked out quite well. You add 4 wheels to the bottom, you got yourself a kiosk. We performed triage actually outside of our office so that we could reduce the number of people coming into the building. So the staff would be outside to determine what the needs were. If the person needed more than general information and needed to come inside, then they were guided into the inside office for service. We had 6 students this year. It was quite an undertaking to keep them busy because in the past they helped us with events and there's certainly been a lot more traffic in town. But they did do some real creative things and did make sure that they spoke to people this year. We did have them located around town, so we did set up a tent over at Fruit World. They saw a lot of traffic over there between Fruit World and G. Dutchman Ferry. We had another one of our little kiosks down at the boat launch. And this year we're able to get our students some training on invasive species as well. So they not only helped out with tourism information, but they were able to provide information with regard to safe boating practices and transporting their boats into the water. And we hope to do that a little bit more in depth next year, as this year now, as that was a very beneficial program for the students. They also did some GoPro videos. So we bought a GoPro from Joe Government. And we understood that people were going to have the opportunity to see all the things they could see and do here at Sicamous. And we wanted to encourage them and sort of give them some ideas. So I won't show them to you, but I will tell you to go on our YouTube channel and see some of these. There's one that starts off at the dock at Twin Acres, and it's Colby Sherlock, who worked for me last summer, and another young fellow. They went kayaking, so it was demonstrating how you could kayak all the way through the lake, get yourself over to the Eagle River. It was great. They toured both the golf courses, so everybody sort of had a nice bird's eye view of what our golf courses were like, because they are both very different. They did the Heritage Trail, walked everybody through it, biked through it, so people could see and be encouraged to take the Heritage Trail. And they did a few other trails as well. They went up to the waterfall. So they had a great time doing that. They also had a great time editing it, putting music to it. So it was a real fun thing for them to do and educational for all of us and them. They created a challenge this year. It was like a scavenger hunt to encourage people to go out and see some of the sites in Sicamous. And we called it our Explore Sicamous, and made little signs and had everybody reply with the hashtag Explore Sicamous. They had set out about 18 places for people to actually go and locate on the garden quilt, so if you didn't know about it. And then Amanda had created some of those really fun signs around that had "Did you knows" on it, so we included them as well. And we offered a prize at the end of it for those who took pictures of themselves actually participating in this. So it was fun. And it gave us an opportunity just to see what people were actually picking up on, what we were putting out there for them to see and do. I'm sure you're interested in these because I certainly was at the end of the day. Exactly how did that impact on us? As far as our visitor stats, as you know, we take them every day, every week, every month. We compare them quarterly, we compare them annually. So I've given you last 2 years, last year and this year, to see how things turned out. It was quite obvious that the visitor center was very, very low in comparison to other years, but obviously we weren't open for quite a bit of it. And as I just said, we did not even encourage people to come into the building. Additionally, we did have our traditional traffic, which would be from other countries, and even, we weren't encouraging people from Canada to come here. So these numbers are based on what we really had this summer, which was mostly from our own province and Alberta. If you look at the visitors roaming, that's not a bad number when you think about it. Last year, we had 3,939, and this year, 2,382. That's with no events. So that's not too bad. There definitely were people here this year. And when we spoke to our businesses, our tourism operators, this was probably one of the best summers they've ever had. And that reflects that. So it wasn't terrible, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. After our summer, we welcomed some new staff to our office. If you haven't had a chance to meet these 2 young ladies, I'd encourage you to do so. This is Danielle Mayer and Hannah Chipman. If any of you know Bussy or Lena Kerr, Danielle is Lana's daughter. And Hannah Chipman and her husband are new to Sicamous as of last March. They got here right in the middle of COVID, so it was quite a welcome to them. And Hannah has a background in museums. So she's been a great asset to our organization and a nice bridge for us as well with the museum. They have embraced the whole, just get your hands in there and try everything, and I absolutely love working with both of them. We continue to do our what's new with the shoe, or in the shoe. They're working on right now. This is meant to be a monthly edition. It's really hard when there's not a whole lot going on, so we're just gonna go quarterly for right now until things pick back up. So we're just putting it together and hope to put it out at the end of the month. At Christmas time, we decided that we would participate in a shop local project and really wanted to make use of the What's New in the Shoe to do that. So we applied for a grant from Community Future Shoe Swap so that we could print our What's New in the Shoe and put it in the mail. And we did. So we sent it out to over 1,600 homes. We contacted all our businesses and offered them the opportunity to advertise something special they might be doing, or just to welcome people into their store. And we call it the 12 Days of Christmas campaign. So we could heighten it every day. We use social media to make sure that every day we promoted whatever it was somebody was offering and encourage people to continue to shop. We'd hoped to get a video done for the Christmas, but it just didn't work out. So we've just recently got one completed because it's important that we remind people how important it is to stay local, support local, and shop local, more so now even than at Christmas time, because it is a tough time for our businesses right now. Our chamber memberships, we have 115 people renewed their chamber membership, keeping in mind that last year we did not bill our members like we usually do in April. We were quite mindful that people had some financial issues. And so we stretched it out, made some arrangements. This year we will not be increasing our rates for the very same reasons. And we're going to offer some incentives as well. Last year, our map was quite popular. There was over 900 printed. We print these in-house now, so it's a great opportunity for us to be able to cut our costs down and to be able to do them on demand, make changes when necessary. So we'll continue to do that. Our Welcome to Sicamous guide, we weren't able to mail them out or drop them off like we were the year before, so we reduced the cost for the advertising. We did end up printing over 450 copies. It is available online. And this year, as we see the new ECDEV and tourism marketing coming to Sicamous, which now will free us up a little bit, we'll change the messaging in this to be more of a welcome for newcomers to our area and more of a directory. So we're focusing more on the business side of it. We'll do our pop-up banners again because we always have, and we like them when we go out to our events. And the window decal, which shows that you have a chamber member good standing. And we will encourage our members to have a business-to-business discount for each other. So those are just a few of our incentives through the chamber. As most of you know, we've got a new little business over there with our own printer. We're making good use of it. Tia is one of our best customers, just so that everybody knows that Tia knows we're doing this because her business model has changed. So we're doing copying, printing, scanning, and email services throughout with our little printer there. We assisted the museum at Christmas time to get their calendar out, and that was the first time they made substantial money on it, so they were quite happy because they could actually do it as needed as well. So we're going to be promoting that much more in the coming months. So what are we working on? Because we had to really think about how our business was going to change in the next little while. As I've said, with ECDEV taking on that real component of attractive business, and with the new tourism marketing, it does allow for the chamber to start looking at what it is that we do best, and that's advocacy and policy. So we will be looking at that in the near future as we change our business. So we're doing a whole new strategic plan. We're right now just working on a website refresh. We are looking at branding. We are considering doing events this year, depending on what the next couple of months look like. The beach concession, that's been in the works for a few years. We're hoping to see it actually come to fruition. We talked with Deb about the Heritage Trail. We're still working on our partnership with the museum. We have some ideas there. I'm part of the Tourism Advisory Committee, and I work really closely with Carly. Her and I have got a couple of ideas for things that we're working on together as well. So website refresh, we put out for an RFP. We got a couple of really good quotes and had a committee who have selected that. One of the reasons that we want this is because we do want to see a new fresh look, but we also want to have fillable forms and an opportunity for people to pay online. It's really important that we continue to address the COVID-19 plethora that we've been left with. These are going to be things that we need to do, and that's mitigate touch points, and having fillable forms and being able to pay online does make that possible. We are going to go try a plan for music in the park right now. Tentative as it might be, but we are going to start to put the wheels in motion to see how that goes. As I said, we're hoping to see something at the beach park. It has been discussed for quite a while. We'd like to see our visitor center staff be able to operate out of there for the summer. The Heritage Trail. And like I said, we are working really closely with the museum to come up with some new ideas for all of us as well. I'm pretty sure that's the end of my presentation. Anybody have any questions?
Comments or questions from council? Go ahead. Council Anderson, Council Collins.
Sheila, what a great job. Thank you so much. You know, I mean, last year you guys went into full COVID support with the, you know, the assistance of the DRS, and you did a great job. And continue to do a great job with education and just supporting our businesses. So thank you for that. It's we're a small community, so everybody supporting each other is really important. I'm very happy to hear that you're chairing the TAC committee, but you were also working with the ECDEF, because the three always need to be singing off the same song sheet and sharing the same messages to avoid confusion, right? So that's really good news. And you said you had 115 members. That's obviously down from last year.
Yeah.
How many businesses are there, and what did we have last year?
Last year we had 135, and I can tell you that primarily the loss in that is from our associate members. So we had a lot of members from Redstone, a lot of the hotels. So this year that was not practical for them to continue on. And we've had some here that just don't feel that it's to their best benefit. And that happens from time to time. I also have like 5 new members in the last little while. So it always balances out, and we do our best to provide service to all of our businesses as we did through the COVID-19 project. I will elaborate a little bit on the relationship building with ECDEF. So 2 of the things that Carl and I are going to work on together, as I said, we already had a Shop Local program that we started at Christmas time. And that's something that Carly is talking about too, so we want to work on that. Additionally, Carly was going to do a walkabout. We did that usually with our chamber, that we talked to our business members. So that'd be a great opportunity for us. I know she doesn't know everybody yet, so we're going to go out together and do that. I think it's really important that everybody does see that we're all working together. I don't want to be like, talked to that girl last week. You're here. So we both have a role here. So the chamber is here to assist our businesses once they're established, to assist them with their networking and anything that they need assistance with to continue their business. As far as I'm concerned, the ECDEF portion is to bring those businesses here and make it possible. So we both have a lot that we can contribute, but there is a need for both.
You know, that's great. I think working together is definitely beneficial for our community. As at Christmas time, Brenda Bushel and I went out on behalf of the chamber and the district to door to door to all the businesses to see if they could on Main Street to light up Main Street a bit. So yeah, it's just another example of working well together and sharing the same message. So thank you for all you do. Great job.
I think it's been really easy to see how well that works as we worked with the museum here. It took a little time to put it into place, but it certainly did. It really has come to a really nice relationship, and we see great potential for it as well. One thing I probably should have mentioned is I have provided Kelly all of our financials as well. I'm happy to say that we are actually not in the red anywhere. We have a slight surplus on both sides of the fence, in the visitor center and in the chamber. And that is primarily due to the fact that we didn't have to pay out weight. And that's where it's at, so, but she has reviewed them. I can't give you the completed approved ones as of this time because we haven't done our AGM for them to be approved. And we may not do our AGM until October. So we're just gonna wait because we want to make sure that we have as many of our members in the room. I think it's advantageous, as great as it is to be able to do things on Zoom, it's still not the same.
Councilor Armstrong.
Yeah, thanks. It's good to see the chamber is functioning as the chamber is supposed to be, because when we first got elected, the chamber was let's just say a huge disappointment. So good job. Some of the colleagues' questions you've answered. And if your numbers are still good, that's great. Glad to see. I hear from local businesses that they all have done better this year than they've done in a lot of years, which the numbers are going like, I guess if you're forced to shop local, it makes a big difference to a local business. I just wonder how you can actually tote that to the community so that when the COVID goes away, the people don't go away. They stay shopping local. So,
And I think even Destination BC right now is working on a big campaign for that. And we're gonna put it in our website to show how important it is to support the shop local. And as I said, that's something that Carly and I are gonna work on together. It is gonna have to become a bit of a message that you really need to get home. And the more of us that partner with that message, the better.
good job.
Okay, good.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, good job, Sheila. Just wanted to thank you for everything you do and all the working together with the DOS and the ECDAD and what you've done with the museum, just it was closed all the time. I mean, now it's an active place. So you've done a great job. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. We'd like having it open as well. It's a nice facility.
Yeah.
It really is. And now it even says visitor center over the top. So the words are even all there. And Gordon and all of the museum board members they've really come around, I think, once they were sort of saw what we were able to offer and that this is truly a partnership.
Yeah, it took a lot of pressure off them.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it gives them the opportunity to really make that a place that people at Sicamous can be proud of and continue to learn from. There's lots of new ideas coming up, and I'm hoping I can share it with you in the near future. I do have one more picture because I didn't think I'd get out of the room without this. So these guys were supposed to be here today, but we had to say goodbye. It was great, but sad.
Good work.
Yeah, that turned out well.
You can see the ones Tanner photoshopped in.
Looked like a little.
There's three of them all wearing the same pants, the same shoes. We have lots of pictures, but we have to make sure that they're all date stamped and everybody knows when they were taken to ensure that we don't have any issues. This was taken on the very last day. They packed up and left. So, I'm sure that you've all heard great feedback. I've had wonderful compliments on our nest and how these young men conducted themselves at a very tough time.
Yeah, I'd just like to mention that, the work of Sheila to basically save the Eagles Nest during COVID. Her job as chamber executive director, working at the rec center. And these boys basically called her mom. They loved her. It was an emotional week. They left Monday. Today is Wednesday. As you know, I was part of it. I volunteered, but the work you did, Sheila, with these kids, just keeping the kids positive during COVID. They've been practicing since December. I think their last game was late November.
Yeah.
They were able to stay in town for an extra 2 months, and then the league decided to suspend, of course. We made the best of it. These kids didn't play, but they had a great time. There was some serious bonding, and the work of Sheila and the cooks and all the folks that supported it, they couldn't even go in the building. It was basically the guys. These ladies really couldn't get in there. So I think it's important to acknowledge you, Sheila, tonight for the work you did for the Eagles.
It was pleasure. It was really
congrats. Yeah.
And I thank both you and the mayor for coming and saying goodbye on the weekend. I know they enjoyed that. We have heard back from their parents, and truthfully, their parents are so grateful for the experience that these boys got and being able to live together. From the KI and other organizations that we've talked to about this, they were quite impressed because we were able to keep every one of those boys safe and have the ability to learn. And I can tell you with the new management team that we have put in place, you're gonna see really good things come out of these boys in the future. They've got really great plans to put the Eagles back on the map. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Sheila.
Thank you.
I just, thank you. But having the opportunity to say goodbye to the boys the other day and the respect that they have for you and volunteers and of course with Mr. Parliament going there and burning the hell out of the ribs that he just cooked and that they were still eating it up, so.
Mr. Keith is very, very popular, like, it's not just that. And this community has really demonstrated how much they do want to see a strong team here. I cannot say enough about the board members and volunteers that have helped us with this project because it was a massive undertaking. None of us thought we were gonna be the cooks for 20 boys for this season, but boy, I know that Shauna can cook, I know Jamie can cook. They all have their specials that they do and that these kids really loved and asked for. So.
I think a combination between your efforts and being part of the Eagles and then Ron coming on board with us and Evan going down there and cooking some dinners and bonding with the boys and whatnot. And us having the foresight to build that dorm or the Eagle's Nest as it's so called right now, and was amazing. So, and I don't think that there's one of those boys that wouldn't want to come back for next year by the looks of their, when I was looking at their eyes when we were having a conversation. So that was all great. One thing for the benefit of council, the Shuswap Tourism has endorsed Carly as a director now, based on a decision made by the CSRD board. And so she's now officially a director with the Shuswap Tourism Association. So that's good news, and it's great to see that you're working with her as well. And so, yeah, we're just like a tough year with COVID, but you know what? Next year's another year. We're just gonna keep on moving forward. Thank you so much for what you do.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
All right. Oh, go
Can I
ahead.
just, Sheila, before you run off, maybe I might be speaking out of turn. Did you not mention today that perhaps they're looking at a summer camp for the Eagles? And the reason that I want to bring this up is because we are going to start looking for tenants, right, for the Eagles Nest. So I think that communication is key, right? So if you find out that you're going to need the facility, then we can plan around you needing the facility.
So there is right now, Ron is working on doing camps in the coming months. Again, that's all very much up in the air because of COVID. He has contacted over 700 people we talked to, so he's got a lot of information up there. And already had some people actually want to put their money down. So there's definitely an interest to come for camps. Again, that was really going to have to be about how things progress. But yes, the intention is to have a camp in the summer. My thoughts are it's a great idea, but it's also an opportunity for us and our businesses because chances are these people are going to come with their kids. And this might be their summer vacation. So Ron and I have discussed that it would be awesome to be able to use the nest for the players, but we want to talk to our tourism businesses as well and possibly put packages together so that we can attract families to stay. But the nest is a massive attraction. We've got a kid that's from Ontario that's called, that actually has a relative here in town that just wants to come. But that kind of atmosphere, we can't sell that. It's really truly something that people feel passionate about, and those boys and their parents would be absolutely fantastic spokespeople for this. So yeah, there is a definite interest in continuing to use it. Evan and I talked briefly this week, he said we'd talk later because both of us have kind of had our hands full as to where we go to next with regard to our obligations through the Eagles. So, but it's been a great experience. We've learned a lot. There's more to learn, but we've learned a lot. But it is a great way to be able to manage that.
And perhaps the TAC could help out with some financial help there. You know, if you want to put together packages, so.
Absolutely great. Yeah,
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sheila. All right, moving forward. Okay, the administration update, capital projects update. Does anybody have any questions for staff when it comes to the capital project updates? I'll just go one at a time here. There's 4 of them. So, any comments? Joe, you want to comment on that?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. Just as an update for our capital projects listed just now, I don't often run through them all, but I'm just going to do it very quickly. Hillier Road water looping project is almost complete. A budget of 813. We spent 520. We have 280 left over. We expect only to spend around $30,000 of that budget. And that will be that job complete. So the waterline projects came in significantly under budget, which I'm ecstatic about. Beach Park concession and washroom, we are edging forward to the start of completion for that. We're just waiting for the province to release the information about the CRIP grant application, which we put in late September time. So when we find out more information about that, that will be a project that we will start early in this year. Wastewater treatment plant. We still have to update our budget on here, but we have a committee meeting later on this week, and we have had our first tender in just now for our tertiary filters. So that money will be spent earlier this year as well. Completion of the wastewater treatment plant to bring us into compliance, hopefully done and completed and certified and written on before June time. The Shuswap Healing Centre, we're waiting in that just now. The Sicamous Bridge at this point, I need to make an announcement to council and to the public, and this will move forward probably tomorrow through a formal press release, that we feel at this point in time, in order to work within our current fish window and for a number of reasons and rationales, we feel like it could be practically necessary in order for the contractor, District of Sicamous, BDI, ISL, to temporarily close the Sicamous Bridge to allow everyone safely and as swiftly as possible to carry on with that work. We are going to be contacting the RCMP, ambulance, fire department, and all other affected parties that will be inconvenienced at this point in time. But in order to bring this project in on budget safely, with no risk or no risk to the District of Sicamous or to public, we want to take that precaution. So there will be an announcement made tomorrow after we've started the contract out to the public. We are hoping that this is a short inconvenience and that bridge will close temporarily for up to a week. It may be longer than that, but through our investigations tomorrow with our geotech and our structural team, we'll know more information about it at that point. So that's an announcement that we'll be making tomorrow for it, formally. The Sicamous Daycare Centre has been completed. The build is complete. We're waiting for one last part before we have official sign off on our physical license itself. The license just now is only waiting for our criminal records checks to come back. Licensing was in last week. We were incredibly impressed with our daycare centre. They said it was absolutely phenomenal, and it's a real testimony to Bayview, to Brenda and the team that was involved in the construction and licensing that with Penny and Jamie, our regulations manager. Biomass fuel heating systems, and then the last part one here was our 2-mile utility crossing. I just confirmed this with Kelly as well. The original budget for this, we had $200,000 in water, $200,000 in sewer for that funding. So the original budget for that was $400,000. This is my fault. We've been coding everything to the water fund as opposed to water and sewer fund. So it looks there as if we're $65,000 over, but we have to adjust that. So it will come in roughly $145,000 under budget. and it will be in that realm. So we're going to adjust that as a coding issue, an error on my behalf, but we hope to have that addressed by the next meeting. That project is also completed and signed off on it as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions on our current capital plans.
Councillor Mullins.
Good job, Joe, and that's great that there's no red income. That means you're, I'm gonna use the famous term, on time and on budget for all your projects. Good job.
Thank you.
Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
I just want to say good job as well, Joe. Once you find out about the funding for the beach park concession, what is the timeline on that bill?
This is another one that's going to be extremely timely. We understand that we want to get that moving ahead and completed for hopefully July 1st. We would like a target date on it for that. Depending on the constructability of it and depending on if there's any delays or anything else that we encounter at that point in time, it could go later than that, but I would like to have it up and going and operational for July 1st. It's a very ambitious target at this point in time. First Nations have been down and done significant work already. I believe we've spent around $67,000, $65,000 of archaeological work and done some geotech work. The architectural work is completed, the job has been tendered out and already awarded. So the advantage of this project is we're not awaiting the tender process and a review. The construction company that we've tendered it out to is extremely keen to get started on it, and if we continue to see mild weather, at this point we'll start on it as soon as we find out about this branch.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bert.
Good work, Joe. Everything looking good. When we get into the design and the construction on the Main Street revitalization, are you gonna do some preliminary meetings on that?
Yeah, no, thank you. Through the chair. As part of the subdivision and service and bylaw review, what we've done is we've done a concept with a couple of local engineering companies. They've now came back to us and gave us that preliminary costing. So the next idea is what we're going to do is just take the cross-sectional elevation for Main Street itself, bring back some options for council to look at for consideration. And then at that point, then we delve into the tender and application side of that. We've roughly got that money in there just now for the revitalisation design, but as per our budget discussions, we've already put money aside for the waterline upgrades, the asphalt upgrades, concrete and base layer. So what we're trying to do just now is piece together as much of the budget as we can, so that when we get to go ahead with it, then we'll move ahead. My expectation on this is, depending on where we sit in our year of construction, I wouldn't like to start doing waterline upgrades and ripping up the road until after the summer influx of people will be here. So I'd be looking at doing that after the September long, and that would realistically be when we would start the largest bulk of that construction. So it gives us lots of time to tender it out, lots of time to do the engineer work, lots of time to have good, meaningful conversations with council and the public on what that actually looks like. So that would be my expectation of that project.
Thanks, Joe.
Any other comments for Joe? Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, moving on to the next bylaw enforcement summary in regards. John, you want to comment on this at this stage as to how well you're doing with this?
Mr. Mayor, Council, I've been doing several night patrols a week, just looking for traffic violations, and done a little bit of enforcement on that as per the policy A3. Keeping up on the files with various zoning complaints and untitled properties. It's been taking up a fair amount of my time as well. We've also started a new Did You Know campaign with Amanda's assistance. Our first campaign has been on our sign bylaw, and I've received a lot of positive feedback from specifically the real estate agents in town, saying it's really nice to see someone taking care of the signs on the higher poles, making sure that everything's being taken care of properly.
Comments or questions? Go ahead, Gordon.
Yeah, good job, John. I like that education program you have. On that, the unsightly premise one, I know you're gonna start in June. Is there any way you can swap the dog one and the unsightly premises around so that, you know, if you do the, you know, in April, usually the snow's all gone and you can actually see what's the unsightly premise and we can maybe speed up that process for
Absolutely.
Deb's unsightly premise.
Yeah, that was just my proposed schedule, just for your education, and I mean, that's definitely easy to change around, so.
Thanks, John.
Colleen?
So this might be a question for Jen, but goes back to you. The unsightly premises or the building lots that are overgrown that need to be cut, would it be a better idea to send out a letter in the spring reminding people that their property needs to be maintained instead of we fought with it in the fall and we failed in some sense?
Absolutely. Through the chair, we have made, you know, a significant amount of time trying to dedicate to contact those property owners. And unfortunately, you know, you do want to seek voluntary compliance, so you have to be a little bit lenient of time. And then of course that time can carry through to winter. And so we, you know, there's some specific properties that I know that we, both John and I are reaching out to say, okay, the snow's fallen, but by the spring we need to get this taken care of. And I think, Josh, can correct me if I'm wrong, there were a few property owners that had agreed to that actually.
Yes.
So absolutely, those files are still open, the ones that we were able to close, and we will be following through. Come the spring.
I'd also like to mention, in regards to the unsightly properties, being on more of a full-time person, it's a lot easier to keep track of those properties and send out the letters and notifications in a more timely manner. So
For sure, thank
it
you.
should be taken care of a lot quicker than previously.
Council Thomas, go ahead.
I'm not sure if it's in John's purview or if it's in Brett, fire chief, but it's not really unsightly, it's unsafe. The along the waterfront on Merrill Lake there, most of those properties, the undergrowth and the brush, like we're going up the side of the hill and cleaning that, but you know, we have a high risk of fire along between basically TP and I think it's Brian Winter's place, somewhere. All those places, the trees and the mess and the style fuel on the ground. And I don't know whether that comes under the bylaw or whether that comes under fire.
Through the chair on that, it's a unsafe condition or hazardous condition, we can absolutely proceed with remedial action, and we don't need to wait the 30 days if we feel that it's a fire hazard. We could go through and actually do the clearing and then move on their property taxes through remedial action.
So would staff mind having a look at that?
Sure.
Because I mean, the thing is that we're gonna be, you know, coming into the spring and summer and that's our fire. We're doing all this work around the community, but I've done it on my own property, started it. Because I got a lot of trees, there's a lot of dead fallen there. I pulled a lot of it out, but there's still work to do. I mean, it's a hard job. You don't want to knock the trees down.
Can I just clarify the area that we're talking about? So I just want to make sure I'm absolutely right on the area that we're talking about.
South of Highway 97 to the Lake Merrill Lake. So those properties between the water treatment plant all the way up to the TP where the corner is.
Okay.
They're all heavily treated. And if you go into most of them, they got as much brush on them as what you're cleaning up on the side of the hills.
Okay.
Would be concerned if anything ever really happened there. Any other comments for John? Thank you all. We will move on to the next one. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council.
All right, building permits. Any comments or questions for staff from council on the building permits? Okay. I'm not hearing any comments or concerns. Let's just see what we've got going on here. Kind of looked at that. All right, so the very last thing on that particular administrative update was the resolution actually tracking, which, Jen, do you want to comment on this at all? Or?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I'm just intending on bringing this forward to council's attention monthly, just so we keep track of the resolutions that were passed by council. I know that Councillor Bushel had brought that up last September, that it would be nice to have that kind of a little reporting on where we're at and how we're doing on the action items from council. So I'll bring this forward monthly just for your information purposes.
Thank you, Jen. All right, we see we're being productive, okay. Any comments or questions from council on that? All right, hearing none, we're gonna move on to the next thing. So, E, municipal boundary expansion, there's correspondence from True regarding preliminary boundary expansion consideration, local government restructuring grant, Province of BC municipal boundary extension process guide. Evan, would you like to comment on this? Give us the update on this and what we're dealing with.
So, let's start with the summary, if you will. You know, the narrative there, I think the policies and, you know, the process. Yeah, that's it. So quickly, I was asked by one of the residents out in area E on exactly what the process is. So if you go to page four back, please. Yeah. Basically summarizes, no, a little bit more. No, page, yeah, up here, page 4.
Okay.
Okay, keep it down a little bit more, bring it this way, yeah, keep going, keep going. All right, so right here. You know what, I'll just wait. Basically, there's 3 major pillars that make up a annexation or a boundary extension, expansion application to the ministry. The first pillar is it requires a resolution from the district of Sicamous to explore annexation, boundary expansion, to notify the ministry that this body, this governing authority considers an annexation proposal has merit to, if anything, seek exploration. In other words, we will look at it. With that, and that's step 2, electoral consent is required by the residents of Sicamous. Okay? You're going to have to go to your people that reside in the district of Sicamous and ask them if they support a potential annexation. Usually that's done during and after a study is complete because a lot of detailed information comes out of the study. The ministry does provide funds to assist in a study. So it's important that a communication plan be drawn up, asking the residents of Sicamous to support the potential annexation. And then, of course, more importantly, the residents in Area E have to also be consulted. And they have lots of questions. And that's part of the process before the ministry will even consider a boundary extension. Because at the end of the day, being creatures of the province, it is the province that will have the final say based on a study, based on the will of the people, both inside and outside the district of Sicamous, based on good governance models that an annexation is warranted. What is required right now is the DOS is not driving this initiative. Okay, we are reacting to some residents who have expressed interest in having us entertain an exploration of annexation. We have an obligation to fulfill that. So we've asked some of the residents to submit some names, and we have some here tonight of an interest for council to consider a resolution exploring annexation. We're in the early stages. There's a long process before we, the district, can go to the ministry with a proposal and have them weigh the pros and cons of any potential annexation. Of course, we have to consult and work with our neighboring jurisdiction, which is the CSRD. Okay, it's also incumbent on behalf of the ministry to ensure that the Sicamous consults with the regional district. So there's the residents of the regional districts, the regional district itself, the residents of Sicamous, the consultants who put together the study, et cetera, et cetera. What this council first needs to decide is there enough merit to consider exploring annexation? We're not, or nor are the residents of the CSRD asking for council to endorse it. Because again, we do not have the jurisdiction, have an authority to approve annexation. The ministry does. Okay. Our job is to make sure it's open, transparent, involves all the stakeholders, and presents a case to the ministry for consideration. It's all explained. I was trying to bring it up on the screen. I apologize. It's all explained in that guide that you have there. And it's very, very specific, and because there's lots of emotion.
I didn't find cigarette on Apple Music.
There's a lot of emotion regarding annexation, and the ministry ensures that all affected parties have the ability to be open and transparent and share all the information on such an important decision. So again, for the public, the DOS is not seeking a boundary expansion at this point per se. We are responding and reacting to a request to consider it. And so we're asking those residents outside our area to come forward and request the possible exploration of annexation. So that's where we're at right now. I can go on and on about the 2003 study, but council's already received a copy of that. That study is obviously dated. It would have to be redone. And again, there are grants available. Staff are looking at grants. I know that Area C in the CSRD has gone through this exercise with the potential incorporation of some communities, because in Area C you have Blind Bay and you have larger urban centers in the rural area. There's a whole study that goes with that. So I know a lot of folks believes that local government has the final say on something like this, but I have to remind everyone that's creatures of the province, and that's what we are. You know, we're obligated under the Local Government Act, the Community Charter, to make sure that we provide the necessary information for the final authority granting such request, which is the ministry. So with that, I can answer any other detailed questions, but that should be enough to allow council to debate this. I just thought it should be on public record that staff have recognized that there is a desire of some CSRD residents that live in Area E to ask us to consider exploring annexation.
So I have a question right off the bat, and so in the request, do we have the request in writing in regards to annexation? And if we do, all right, we do have a letter here.
Through the chair, I didn't include it on the agenda due to the personal information in the document, so I can do that for all of you tonight.
Then with this letter and with this request that we have and it's on blue, then I guess if we're going to make a move on this, then we should probably have a resolution put into place. But I'm gonna open up the floor here for comments at this particular stage. Okay.
Yeah, through the chair, I'll just add for council debate sit is that, and I'll turn it over to Joe to add to this, is that we were reaching out to True Engineering just for a cost estimate of what it would be just for the study. That would be part of the first step is to have the study. And that was going to come forward to the finance committee meeting on the 24th once we had those numbers finalized. He may have more info.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. So the reason that we reached out to True was because they did a previous study and therefore had the background and already had the updates ready to go for it. A very loose class D at this point in time. The study itself, this isn't the work, this is the study that we're discussing just now, is in and around $60,000 to $70,000 and takes anywhere up to about 8 months to complete. And again, Jen and I spoke about this in detail this morning again. Time-wise for Jen, myself and staff here, it would be very, very difficult for us to do. So that was the reason that the study would need to go out and be handed out at that point or given back out. There's a number of other municipalities that have been through this process recently, and those prices are concurrent with them. Vailmont's one as well, and they used urban system. Prices were consistent, but staff that we spoke to here did say that it was very, very time consuming for staff to go through. So therefore, they wanted to make sure that it was tendered out to another company to complete that study.
Councilor Mullins, go ahead.
So through the chair, are you actually looking for a resolution to start the process today?
You know, it's not me that's looking for it. This is a question to council. When I look at this, I assume, you know, it's written by one resident who obviously is asking council to entertain exploring. But there, you know, it's one signature. I think this list on the back is all the residents who make up Area E plus some residents in the district of Sicamous, I notice. You know, again, council, this is your decision whether to explore it, to direct staff to explore it. I probably would recommend that staff look into this whole annexation process. Because when I look at this list, I don't see signatures. I just see an all-encompassing list of both CSD and DOS owners. You're obligated to let your public know that you've been asked to entertain something like this. Maybe we issue a press release, a resolution on a press release saying that we're going to be exploring this. That's something that council should decide. You can do that tonight if you feel comfortable. It's non-binding. Remember, you're asking for an exploration. Okay, you're not approving it because you can't approve it, as I stated earlier. Are you comfortable making a resolution saying you want to explore it? Based on this, there seems to be an appetite for the district of Sicamous to explore it. It's a decision council can make. Again, it's non-binding. At any time, you can suspend the exploration if you feel the need to do so, or to continue it.
I'm kind of looking at a resolution in order to explore this. At the same time, explore grant funding in order to assist us.
You can be specific.
And because it's, there's going to be a financial cost to this. But at the same time, I'm taking a look at that, but like you say, there's no signatures here. So I'm almost pretty sure from my perspective at this stage, but anyway, I'll open up the floor again. Colleen, go ahead.
I don't know, there is no signatures here, but they have a signature date column on here.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if the letter went in and they got like the letter with the signature on it. This person has just given us an overall list. Before we do anything, I would suggest that we sort through this and see who's in the district of Sicamous and who's in area E, because these are a mix of both. So I would sort through and see how many area E signatures, maybe there's only 3. So that's, wouldn't even pull a trigger on anything, really. So maybe that's where we start. Find out how many of these are area E and how many of these are district of Sicamous, and compare the area E's to the total amount of residents in area E and find out what the
Just on a note, a good approach could potentially be, we have scheduling a finance meeting at the next February 24th. Maybe we could look at an estimate of what the total cost would be, what grant opportunities are available right now. And then we can look through this list to legitimize it a little bit more and report back to you on the finance committee within 2 weeks. And then once we have some more information, then we can feel a little bit more comfortable making a resolution to move forward, or not.
Yeah, I think that's good advice at this stage. All right, Jeff, go ahead.
Through the chair, I do think that they do have to sign, and like I said, I looked at the list, I'm not sure. I mean, it's obvious who's in, but I'm pretty sure that all of those people listed there signed requests, so. I do agree that staff should have a look at it, find out what the cost is, we should put it in for our budget, but like if we needed a resolution for that, or are we just staff direction to do that, or what's required?
Jen?
The chair, we already had a resolution in December, actually it wasn't a resolution, but there was direction from council in December that a report was prepared on the process, so staff is still working on that, and we'll have a more, complete report to bring back for the February 24th, so just with the cost estimate, even what the study is, so.
Okay, all right. All right, any other comments or questions on this? So we're gonna leave it in the hands of staff and we'll bring it back. Thank you very much for that. Strategic priorities and portfolio updates. Counselors, you have any comments or questions on this at this stage? Colleen, go ahead.
I may not, everybody might know the answer to this, but I don't. The bylaw rewrites, zoning and bylaw rewrites, where are we at in that process? Because we were going to get it onto our website just for the preliminary, so people could digest, have a look. So I don't see it on the website yet. So is there an update on that, please?
Sarah, do you want to provide a quick update?
What?
Welcome to Sicamous.
I'm sorry, what were we asking about again?
Just an update on the zoning bylaw where we're at. The question from Councillor Anderson was, because it's not on the website, it was promised to be on the website. I know the status of the zoning bylaw because I've talked to both yourself, Mark Holland, and also our lawyer, but if you could just provide both council and the public an update on the zoning bylaw, that'd be great. Thank you.
Sure, yeah, so we did add a webpage early in the year for where we will be putting those updates, and when we're gonna start, when we're gonna actually put some draft material on there for people to see ahead of the council workshop and the public input sessions, which would happen just after the council workshop. So we actually met with our consultant, Leader Geo, last week, and we're working on some of their recommendations right now. And they still have some further work to do in terms of analysis. But we are looking to have some draft material that we can start working with soon. They're a little bit further behind in terms of their time estimate to do the work. It took a little more time than they anticipated. But we're still kind of right on track for like the March area.
So you would suspect that the document itself would be online end of February, beginning of March?
Probably draft zones and
Yes.
map. That's what we would have on there. Yes.
Okay, so, and my next question is, when the developers come in and talk about development or building, or are we sharing with them that the zoning, that the bylaw, some of the zoning is changing, and
Yes.
if they're thinking of having 300 Airbnb in one spot, it may
Yeah.
not be?
It's always a conversation around what the official community plan says, right? So it's like, they look at existing zoning, does it support what they're actually talking about? Yes or no? If it doesn't, then we go straight to the OCP and see what the land use designations are and have a conversation around what those policies should say. And if it looks like it's a decent, reasonable to bring something forward like that, someone else mentioned, oh, by the way, we've got a draft bylaw coming. You take your contact information and add it to our stakeholders list so that you can be part of that conversation, because it depends on what their timelines are, right? You could potentially do all that through the new bylaw process and closely making an application. That was our page that we've set, and we've communicated with everyone that was interested in the sessions that were advertised in November. That this is where everything's going to be. And we'll send out further emails once we've got.
Council Wallace, Council Bushel.
Thanks for asking that, Colleen. Good question. Like 4 years now. Could I ask that like that zoning bylaw update gets some face time at the front of it? So you don't have to do what you just did, go digging around through 12 pennies to find that.
It is on the website then.
It is, but it's not findable. And when you attach the actual zoning bylaws for people to look at, it will be just as difficult to find. So I asked this some time ago that it got like somehow on our website, when you go to the district of Sicamous, things that are important to the community actually has a, like this, something that you can just go click and it's there, not go have to rummage through a bunch of files. And if you can do that, then at least people that are asking, I could say, well, it's there, the information is there, and we can move forward. Thank you.
I just will acknowledge it's purposely buried at this time because there's nothing to update. The people that were connected back in November, Sarah has all their contact information. The second we have something there, it'll be on the homepage for the question, just like every new update we have, it's always moved to the forefront. Yeah, of course, I know how important this is to council.
Gordon?
Yeah, just, to the chair, you know, in layman terms, defending Sarah, it just wasn't ready for the website. It had so much to be determined in it, it couldn't be put on the website. So it wasn't even close to being put, you know, being able to get to the public yet. So it still needs some work. So, you know, I've been loving Sarah, and I don't mean to, but she's doing nothing. We're doing all we can to get it on there.
Yeah, it's just incredibly important to get this done. That's complication, but I hope we can get this done before the summer months. All right, any other comments on this? All right, thanks, Sarah.
Thanks.
Jeff?
I don't know, could I?
Go ahead.
On item number 2 on the portfolio strategic plan, the rail trail project, there's been a change. The primary counselor is not Mayor Rice anymore. It's now become me. So just for information.
No, it was really.
We'll just change it on the CT. All right. Okay, any other comments on the strategic priorities of the state?
We could probably take the daycare off now.
Hmm?
We can probably scratch off the daycare.
Put it on the completed
They
list.
don't complete beside it.
We'll put them on the completed one. All right. All right, moving on. We have council's report, so Councilor Evers, you want to start out?
Okay. Quite a couple of weeks. The only thing I did was attended a kind of a meeting with a rep from the Valley Community Support Society because they got some funding to do a transit review. So they're looking at past projects and where we're going in the future. It's kind of exciting because these reviews haven't taken place very often in the past, and there's a lot of things changing in our community. The strong need for transit in our future. So it's nice to have something moving on that end.
Councilor Moss?
Nothing to report.
Councilor Evans?
Thanks. I got to help the Chamber of Commerce a little bit with some free video work I did for them, and then I'm looking forward to the library regional meeting next week. And other than that, it's pretty quiet.
Councilor Bushel?
I don't have anything to report. First time ever.
Wow, what you doing?
If I had heard of it.
Me too. I've been I am involved with the Tourism Advisory Committee right now, and we are on a project to make sure that we are highlighting everything that is that are favorite things to do in Sicamous, favorite places to go, favorite places to picnic, and things like that. So if any of you guys have any feedback of your favorite places or things that, you know, we can add to marketing Sicamous, please fire them over to me. Thanks.
Yeah, same as Councillor Aries, I attended that transportation Zoom with the Eagle Valley Community Support Services. And Janet has hired a project manager to pull things together. We all agree that we don't want a report to go stick on the shelf and flex and mess with all the previous reports. I was wearing two hats. There was also president of Eagle Valley Transportation, so there's a possibility that EVT, Eagle Valley Transportation, and Eagle Valley Community Support Service might do a small joint venture with two nonprofits to help in forwarding transportation in Sicamous as a small start to show that the community's working together. And I sat down with his worship on Friday to discuss some property for affordable housing. That's my report.
All right, so my report is going to the Eagle's Nest and wish the boys well, and we hope that they come back next year. And I really appreciate Sheila and the Sicamous Eagles Council and Indigenous Sicamous and supporting that particular hockey program, and hopefully that we can continue with the next year. So Southern Interior Development Initiative Trust is now having another meeting here shortly. I think on Friday, and there is an appetite now for them to reopen up grant funding. So that's an interest to us. Yes, in regards to the housing program, the affordable housing program, we're in conversation on that right now. What else is that going on? I think that's pretty much it for me too. I don't know, there just seems to be a lot happening, and it seems to be not really developing, but slowly getting the priorities looked after. Oh yeah, that was what it was the daycare facility and the opportunity to go over there and cut a ribbon. I would have liked to have seen all our councilors there at that particular ribbon cutting, but because of COVID and so forth, we kind of had to keep it in perspective, thanks to Amanda and the great video that you put together on that, explaining, thanking all the people that were involved with that. I'm sure we're looking forward to that facility getting opened up. That's my report now, and we are going now into rise and report. Recommendation of the committee of the whole now rise and report, and not the recommendation.
The recommendation is Friday.
Oh, we don't have it. Recommendation of the committee of the whole now rise and report. Moved by Councillor Perry, second by Councillor Holmes. All in favor? Thank you. And Amanda, do we have anybody on air that would like to ask a question?
Anybody attending online, please hit the raise your hand button so we can queue you up, and we have Deb Heap ready, so we go.
Hi, so I've been talking to the Sicamous Bible Church, and they would like to once again do a cleanup of the seniors' flower beds, but they would like to coordinate it and have it on the same day as the community cleanup. They're thinking that that just kind of raises the the profile of the activity somewhat in terms of them promoting being an active part of supporting the community. So I would just like to put out there, I'm assuming that it'll be Gord and Jeff again, but if you guys could come up with a date for me, I'd like to give them as much notice in terms of getting their troops together to help out with the flower bed cleanup on that same day.
Thank you, Deb.
Okay.
All right.
Agreed, Deb, we'll work on those dates. We'll
Okay,
figure out a date.
perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. Anyone else?
No one else has raised their hand, so
Okay.
move on. Go for it.
All right.
No one else has come up.
Great. We'll move on. All right, next, 11 staff reports, finance committee meeting, recommendation that the select finance committee meeting at 9 a.m. on February 24th, 2021 in the council chambers. Need a mover on that? Councilor Patterson, Councilor Bushel. Kelly, you want to comment on that at all? Pretty straightforward.
It is pretty straightforward, and I have been madly putting together all the numbers. I have accounted for every penny of this organization. Moving forward, I've got my finger on it, and I am very much excited to go over everything with you guys in a couple weeks.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments on that?
Very excited.
I'll be glad to get past that.
Yeah, no, I like pulling it all together.
I know we're part of that. All right, call the question. All those in favor? We're on for that date. Okay, 2021 Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Grant. It's a recommendation of council authorize staff to apply for the 2021 Community Emergency Preparedness Fund for the amount of $25,000 to build an emergency operations center in the district municipal office. I need a mover. Councilor Bushel, second by Councilor Evans. Brent, you've been sitting there, give us a report.
Thank you, through the chair. So the purpose of this grant is to create an emergency operations center for the district of Sicamous. At present time, we don't have one, not as a designated location, and part of the grant application is also doing the training to make sure that we're able to make this a functional emergency operations center. To those that aren't familiar with that particular term, it's basically in any major emergency, it becomes a support hub for the responding agencies. So if we have something like the 2012 freshet, we would have the ability to support emergency social services for finding people accommodations, and then also for logistics for getting equipment or any pieces of stuff organized, houseboats, for example. And also for financial, of course, for trying to track down all the expenses that are involved in a major emergency. We've seen where emergency operations centers have been sort of collapsed in some instances when we've had major wildfires. For example, in Caribou, we were working at a fire at 108 Mile with no emergency operations center, and the fire department was basically running the show as best they could. Pretty difficult for them, and an emergency operations center would be geared towards if, for example, San Bernard had a major emergency that cut off the CSRD offices, which is where their primary location is. If they weren't able to operate out of one of their alternate locations, Sicamous would be a good option for them because down the road, it's away from the actual area of risk, and it certainly provides for a safer area for people that are working those emergency operations centers to locate to. As far as the funding, it's $25,000. Most of the grant is written, and we've identified some pieces of equipment that we'd be looking at. One of the biggies is improving the internet capability of this particular space. That would enable us to be operating more remotely, as is kind of how emergency operations centers are operating today. Hopefully in the future, it will function as a true operations center. Just to give you an example or kind of a thought as to what it would look like, wouldn't be a whole lot different than what you've got set up here for the council room, but instead of the mayor, it would be an incident commander or an emergency director, and then supporting members, so people like finance, operations, planning, logistics, These are kind of the key members that are going to try and coordinate that emergency operations center and create support for a major emergency. I think the other things that we're looking at is some electronic whiteboards, laptops, whiteboards as well for operating emergency operations center. And with the training, we have some members in the staff that have training already or have experience. Jennifer mentioned that she has some training. I think Kelly, Evan has certainly experience with emergency operations centers. So part of our evaluation process of this grant is we would run a tabletop and see how this functions.
All right. Any questions for Brett on this? Straightforward. I'm gonna call a question. All in favor? Thanks. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you. All right, so the next motion here is 12A, District of Sicamous Development Corp. Partnering agreement. Councilor Anderson probably will speak to this. I don't know, recommendation that the agreement for services with the District of Sicamous Development Corp. Be amended by requiring quarterly reports on activities and operations of the Development Corp. And adding language that the district will be consulted prior to the Development Corp. Hiring additional employees. I need to move Councilor Mullins, seconded by Councilor Parrish. Councilor Anderson, you want to comment as to why we need this?
Sure, because right now the ECDF Corp, we only meet semi-annual, twice a year. So there's a lot going on in town right now. So, and we are attached to ECDF board members on portfolio items, and I haven't talked to the person that I'm attached to on those items. So I think it's just a really good idea for us to get more communication going right now. Town's a bit of a buzz. There's lots going on. It doesn't hurt that everybody's in the know. It also doesn't hurt to have give an assist if you know something that can assist the ECDF Corporation, or the ECDF Corporation can assist with something that you're working on or someone that you're talking to. I just think it's really good communication. The Tourism Advisory Committee is hiring I don't know if the Tourism Advisory Committee or ECDF, hiring a staff member to do some website assistance. And I saw it come across. I just wanted to bring it to council because I know how much council likes adding heads, adding bodies to the DOS umbrella. This is a grant funded position, but I would suggest, or I think it's a really good idea, that if ECDF is going to hire any more staff, that it should be communicated, shared, transparent with the shareholders. So that's the reason I brought this forward, just more transparency, more communication. There's lots going on. I frankly, I don't know if they've had a meeting. I don't think they have. There's one coming up, but I just think communication, transparency, and working together is way better than silos.
Any comments or questions on this? The only thing I look at this is that if I sat on the board and obviously, and council actually selected this board, why do we have a board? We just have a council. I see maybe the quarterly reports could be maybe yearly reports or half a year. I know if I sat on this board, I'd be wondering why did you want to? I don't quite get this, to be quite honest with you. Why we have to have our fingers so much in the pie? Let's give the Economic Development Corporation and their board the opportunity to work as a board. So that's how I see this. I don't know. Work.
Well, I know where Colleen's going with it. I just, there is a lot going on, and if you want to help, like I'm feeding Carly all kinds of information all the time. But it's nice to, I mean, it's like developments in town that are coming, developers that come to town, or people that are inquiring about development in town. Momentum breeds momentum, and that's how, if we don't say anything to Carly for a half a year or whatever, I just don't think that you know, you have to help to feed the Economic Development Corporation and get back stuff back in return, you know, like information back in return. And I think momentum builds momentum when you're talking economic development.
Yeah, but that's why we have a board, and we go ahead, come trainers and come certification.
Sure, I understand, Terry, that's why we have a board, but I probably have information that maybe a board member doesn't have, and they could be attached to my name, you know, so the fact that there's zero communication. And like I said, there's lots going on, and it's, you know, and I agree that we elected the board. That doesn't mean that we abandoned the board, I don't think. So that was just my opinion. I just think that we should go.
That's why, yeah, okay.
I just thought it would, okay, I'm sorry if you are. That's why I thought perhaps quarterly updates would be a little bit better to keep us in the loop, especially with so much going on right now.
Okay.
I think it doesn't hurt. I mean, economic dev corp is in year one. It's something that has been envisioned as a worship for 6 years or so. And it wouldn't hurt in the first year to do this. We can pull back on this later. I mean, it's in the infancy, and communication is better than no communication. It doesn't look like a lot of extra work for the board. I support it.
Almost in Councilor Harry.
So through the chair, yeah, just this morning I was asked what the ECDET works do. I couldn't answer. So, you know, if we have the information, it's like, there's people that don't even know exactly where the ECDET is. So I said, well, I think they're over at the bridge. And Ward said, well, they're kind of at the district office too. So like I said, so where do you find your at? Exactly. So I don't see the harm in having word what they're actually working on. She doesn't have to come here, just a written thing stating so that when people ask us, what's the ECDET Corp doing, we can say, here, like, I'm not sure that assuming it has a place on our page. So I'm not against having information given to us so that when people ask me, like I said, it's ironic this is here this morning. I got asked by people in the town, like, so what's the ECDET Corp doing? And actually where are they located at? So.
Kelly, go ahead.
So I am the one who suggested that we bring this here as a result of just communication with council and questions, because there's been can you get Carly to do an update? And I'm very mindful of Carly's time and what she's working on, because she's got a board that is constantly stopping by. Then she's got the tourism advisory committee that is constantly stopping by. And then we have council who is then also, so there's a lot of people above Carly. So I just wanted to formalize a way for reporting that was less disruptive to Carly. So what a good approach would be, so everybody gets clear communication, was after a quarterly dev court meeting, the next council meeting, Carly can do a report to council. And it could be a verbal one or written one, nothing terribly fancy, but just an information update. And then there'll still be quarterly, there'll be information updates, and 2 of them will have financial updates along with them. Moving forward, just to streamline things and so everybody's on the same page, knows what's going on, and then that will be an opportunity for council to ask questions if they have anything going on. It doesn't have to be forever. It's just, you know, while everybody is getting more established moving forward. I mean, I'm happy with either way, but I thought if we were getting questioned to come to council, that we should formalize it just to make it more streamlined for Carly and for productivity moving forward.
Okay, well, with that explanation, I'm a little bit more comfortable, but the actual operations of the corporate board is at the AGM, you go through these processes and the financials are handed out and the objectives are handed out. But in this particular case, this is different. This is municipal, and so, okay. I'm good. We'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, aquatic invasive species enforcement. Council Patterson, do you have a comment on this?
Okay, so last council meeting, we brought to a resolution in that made the Asian, requesting that the government of BC designate invasive Asian clams as prohibited aquatic invasive species under the control aliens and species regulation. So we all agreed to move that forward. So after giving the resolution a little bit more thought, our next thought is, okay, well, how do we enforce it, and how do we make it scarier than people are taking it, and more serious than people are taking it? So we came up with the resolution that we're presenting tonight, but I'm just going to go back to comparing throwing an empty potato chip bag out of a vehicle and getting $1,000 littering fine, because that's the law. You throw a potato chip bag out, you get a fine. You throw a cigarette butt out, you get a fine, plus if the forest catches on fire, there's a bigger penalty. So keeping that in mind, if you miss a checkpoint crossing the borders and you bring a zebra and Pega mussel boat into the Shuswap Lake, you destroy our lake. And there's no penalty. And there's no big, scary, anyone that's gonna track you down. And if you miss the border check, who cares? There's really not, we're not open 24 hours a day. Maybe there's one or two. Some don't even have people posted at them. But if you do bring your boat from, I don't know, let's go with Ontario, and you miss the border check stops and you land here, you could very, very much potentially bring the Quagga mussel. So that will end up costing us billions of dollars. But that person, because there was no border check and they didn't do anything to their boat to make sure that they weren't transporting mussels. So what I'd like to do is put the onus on the watercraft operator and perhaps get a resolution moved and perhaps into law that it's illegal to move a watercraft from one body of water to another without clean, drain, and dry. If you are caught at a checkpoint and you are carrying mussels on your boat, although you know the law is you need to clean, drain, and dry, I'm suggesting a fine, $10,000 fine. Something that is serious enough that it puts the onus on the boat owner to clean, drain, and dry when moving from one body of water to another body of water, because I don't think people understand the seriousness of this. When milk oil first started coming into, well, was first introduced to some of the lakes, and the group back then, who's our milk oil driver guy, Harm? Hamish. And Hamish fought. He said, you know what, we just have to guard our borders. We have to make sure that these boats coming in are clean. We're gonna have milfoil. So now what do? We manage our milfoil. It is going to be so expensive to manage mussels and keep the community healthy, the businesses healthy, the water won't be healthy. We've got salmon and we don't even know everything that's going to happen with great mussels. So my second part of the resolution was to make it illegal to transport mussels. Not illegal to transport mussels, but illegal to not clean, drain, dry, and contaminate your boat from one body of water to another. So that's where we came up with, and if you want to read that resolution.
So whereas Canada is home to 20% of the world's freshwater and the spread of aquatic invasive species poses irreparable environmental, social, and economic threats that will cost Canadian taxpayers billions of dollars in lost tourism and economic opportunities and other unknown costs. And whereas the spread of AIS is largely connected to human activity, including the unsafe transport of watercraft between bodies of water. And whereas council acknowledges current government efforts through fines for failing to stop at BC watercraft inspection station, there is a lack of specific provincial or federal regulation and enforcement that is directed at watercraft owners who fail to prevent the spread of AIS by cleaning, draining, and drying their watercraft before transport. Therefore, be it resolved that the provincial and federal government adopt stricter enforcement measures for watercraft owners, including the introduction of a significant fine for watercraft owners that fail to clean, drain, dry their watercraft before transporting it to another body of water, and an increase in the fine issued to motorists who fail to stop at a BC watercraft inspection station.
Moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor McCabe. Questions or comments on this? Councillor Mollis and Councillor McCabe.
I might suggest a slight friendly amendment.
I'm sorry, Chuck?
I said if I might suggest a slight friendly amendment. Your last thing, be it resolved to clean, dry, watercraft transport to another body of water increases the stuff, but you're talking about be it resolved that the provincial and federal governments adopt stricter enforcement. So you're talking about all governments, but your last line says BC watercraft. They do have a border, because when I went to Saskatoon, there is a border check in between Saskatchewan.
Okay, so we should change that to.
So just take it out,
Okay.
take out BC at a watercraft inspection station.
Okay.
Yeah, I also had a friendly amendment to suggest, where it says therefore be it resolved that the provincial and federal governments adopt, and then add the word increased and stricter enforcement measures. That way it broadens enforcement, not only makes it stricter, but broadens.
Okay.
So I'm suggesting add the words increased and.
Any more questions? Gordon?
Just one on the aircraft. I know people that fly from Alberta to here with float planes and land in the lake in Mare Lake with float planes. So how would you say amphibious, or how would you worry about that, or I mean it's the same thing? So just a question.
Can we slash planes or aircraft or float planes? Can we watercraft and float planes and
I
watercraft?
would refer to, you guys would know, anything other, because they go in the water, are they still under watercraft definition?
All watercraft?
Including.
It's, through the chair, sorry. When you get in a plane, say an Apple, and you take off, and it's got floats on it. Most of them have wheels on it, so they could land in a dry place to do that service, but a lot of them take off from water, land in water. So it's you can add float planes, they're watercraft and float planes. Like
I'm good with a float plane, just the
Just add
definition of
float planes,
watercraft. Just add float planes?
float planes, because
Okay.
the planes without the floats don't float.
Regular planes.
She's got-
Well, a seaplane is used to describe two types of air water vehicles.
Float planes.
Okay, so she's gonna
That's okay.
give us the new resolution as amended, because rather than amending them, I'll just ask the mover and the seconder to move the new resolution as,
Is that
and
different?
without going through a resolution to amend.
Start therefore.
Just start at the therefore. Thank you. Therefore, be it resolved, the provincial and federal government adopt increase and stricter enforcement measures for watercraft and float plane owners, including the introduction of significant fine for watercraft and float plane owners that fail to clean, drain, and dry their watercraft and or float plane before transporting it to another body of water, and an increase in the fine issued to motorists who fail to stop at a watercraft inspection station.
Yeah, okay, I think that's got it. Go ahead.
Just a question, do you know what the fine is now? Is there one?
$345.
That's for driving past the
$345? Yeah.
That's just in driving by, not if you're caught with. So.
Are you comfortable with that resolution now, Councilor?
I'm good, is council comfortable with it? It's
Yeah.
big.
And the second?
Shoving it, moving
Who
it.
seconded it, Gordon? Yeah, that was it, Gordon?
No, okay.
But yeah,
Yeah, so you're good with that? Good with that? Okay, good. And we can call a question on the resolution. All those in favor? Carries, thank you. Okay. Moving on to bylaws and policies, zoning amendment application number 20-078. RZ 1713 Hillier Road. There's a recommendation of council give official community plan bylaw number 994/2021 and zoning amending bylaw number 995/2021, first and second reading this 10th day of February, and that council directs staff to report back to council with a report on referrals, and that council directs staff to prepare a public hearing. I need a mover on it. Councilor Long was seconded by Councilor Bushel. Sarah, give us a report.
Sure. The landowner, Fred Darrow, is attending this evening by Zoom. Subject property is located at 1713 Hillier Road East, above the Eagle River off Sicamous Road, and that's the boys with toy storage facility, which is something a little about. And the district stormwater detention pond property, which is just residential properties are shown below and shown above that. The owner proposes to amend the official community plan designation from residential medium density to general industrial. And to amend the zoning from urban single family residential to I-1A light industrial. Pictured here is a conceptual site plan, which would be subject to a development permit and zoning review process prior to construction should the proposal be approved. The proposed amendments are to permit the development of RAT indoor boat and trailer storage facility comprised of 2 large prefabricated buildings. The I-1A zone also permits a caretaker dwelling as well as service and repair establishments. The owner may also place a mobile home for a caretaker and establish a boat detailing service. Pictured here is a similar facility in Lake Country submitted by the owner to illustrate the development concept. The owner proposes 2 similar buildings with bracking similar to that shown. The buildings proposed are 15.8 or 52 meters in height, approximately 35.5 by 50 meters or 120 by 165 feet in dimension. An industrial development permit. Oh dear. Sorry guys, I'm missing a bunch of my notes. So what this table is showing is that the proposal is consistent with the proposed OCP land use designation and is mostly consistent with the proposed light industrial zone. So it meets the regulations for setbacks for buildings and structures, as well as the parcel coverage. But a variance would be required for the proposed building height. The landowner did say that if necessary, he could remove 1 layer of racking to then bring it into conformance with height, if the variance was available. Let's amend that. All right, industrial development permit would be required prior to development to address internal traffic flow on the site, as well as screening, landscaping, and parking requirements. It is noted, just generally, that a fair amount of snow be required to bring the site up to level. But the property is outside of the Eagle River, and in terms of stormwater management, that would be expected to be dealt with on site, which is an impacts to water systems. Referrals have been sent to both external and internal agencies on January 28th, with responses requested by March 1st and February 2nd, respectively. 4 responses have been received to date. Sure.
All right. Comments or questions? Councilor Wallace, Councilor McCabe.
Okay, so at the risk of, I guess it's not a conflict of interest because I measured from where the yellow line is to my property outside of the 50 meters. So just, but when I sit in my house and look out my windows at the Eagle River, when that building is built, I'll see it. I currently can see the buildings that are existing. Mostly just the lights out, some of the lights off the dwellings and all that cul-de-sac there. So I did have a conversation with Greg Darrell and just said to him, you know, because that is park land that comes down the side with that lagoon that we made them put in and around the bottom where the river is. I said, because it is park land and people, you know, there's not a lot of people that use it right now, but as they get more density, I'm assuming that every available space that gets access to the water will get more higher use. So I asked him, rather than doing it in a stark white, maybe you could consider the Sicamous tunnels. So the trees and the browns that we have, you know, kind of camouflage it and blend it in a bit. And his response was, it's no extra cost because white, blue, or green is the same cost for the outside. As far as the 52 feet, when you look at the building and the racking that's required to have that kind of a storage facility, I'm not sure that it would be economically viable if we didn't allow the building to be that height. So I don't have any opposition to it, as long as, like I said, they put some color on the building other than a white siding on it that makes it stand out, because it is a park there, just to keep it that it's kind of blends in somewhat.
Okay, thank you. Councilor McCabe, and then Councilor Bushel.
Yeah, my only concern is the rezoning from residential to light industrial. We're having trouble finding places to build home short of the west side of the channel. This is going to be more difficult to access with the new bridge. Yeah, I'm sure there's an economic business case for storage, but we have to vote on what's best for the community. And I think they can plan for housing more than storage. So I don't like converting land from residential to like industrial.
Councilor Bushel, go ahead.
Through the chair, I mean, I think it's needed in the community. It was zoned all industrial before, the whole property was all industrial, and then it was zoned to residential. And Mr. Darrell is contributing affordable housing on the next project, and yeah, I think he's doing a good deed for the community. It creates lots of employment. We need industry, and we're shy on storage right now for recreational vehicles and boats and all kinds of things. So I think it's a good thing, and I agree with Jeff on the height. 52 feet is not very high. If everybody look at any building, commercial building, and it's not that out of the ordinary. So I'm fully supportive of it, and I appreciate Malcolm's concerns, but I think we need this for industry.
I support it as well, because I mean, let's face it, that whole complex is, you know, storage as it is, and I mean, this is just another addition to it. We might as well keep it all in one area rather than it being on Riverside. And well, no, I support this, I support staff recommendation. Councilor Mons.
Just a couple points to Councilor McCabe's comment. In the conversation that I had with Mr. Darrell, he basically indicated that as the staff report says, that property at the elevation that it is, the amount of fill that he had to bring in there to actually build something on it to make it residential would make that cost, that mill would make it uneconomical to do residential. And on the other side, he's putting in pads. He's already started the water work power line on the other side. So I think he's starting with 30 or 40 of them, but it is 80 or 90 total when it's done. So I know I've already had 4 people ask me about that. They're looking at how to get a hold of it so they can actually get a spot over there. So pad rental and a mobile home is as affordable as you can get. So.
Councilor Anderson.
I'm just gonna weigh in, I support this as well, and if Greg wants, he can give us a call and we can help him with color palette there. If he so chooses to stick close to the district colors.
All right, any other, go ahead, Councilor McCabe.
Yeah, no, I was here when Greg made the presentation, and I know it's in floodland and it needs to be raised. I think he said 1,400 loads or something, but it's still zone residential, and we have to look at long-term range. Yes, right now, it's probably a good business case. He could make money at it, create jobs, and then 10, 15 years from now, we're just a designated resort town instead of community because we don't have room for housing. So, yeah, in the short term, I can see it creating jobs and getting being a good business case and the units being sold, the storage being used. But I'm just my opinion. You know, I think in the long term should keep our residential lots residential.
All right, thank you. Respect. All right, so any other comments or questions for Sarah at this stage? We have a resolution on the table. We just wanted to go with it.
I understand this is just first and second reading, so I'm probably going to vote in favor of this at this time because we're not committing to anything except public transparency and let the public weigh in. So just in case you see my hand raised in favor of it, that's fine. We're not committing to anything except more information and more transparency for the public.
That's right.
I do have a comment, just from talking with Greg the other day, and what he was saying, and I would need to do some more background research on this, as a new planner here, and this application that I'm gonna mention was with Melinda. But he does currently have an industrial zoned parcel right at the corner of Hillier Road and Hillier Road East that he applied for zoning amendment to do more housing on for the mobile park that he's starting to work on. So what he had commented to me is that he paused that process because he wanted to basically try to swap land. So he wanted to move the residential to that corner and the industrial to the other, and have it abutting the existing industrial. If you get what I'm saying. Just want to put that out there.
That's interesting. All right, any other comments or questions? Councilor Erickson, Councilor Evans.
I was planning to vote in favor of this for a similar reason as Councilor McHale, through the chair. Sorry. I'm interested to hear what the public has to say about this, and I am interested in the process carried to third reading for that reason.
Thank you. Councilor Evans.
Thank you, through the chair. Just a question, if I may, for Sarah. In the process of determining whether this will go through or not, did I hear the word screening?
Yes.
Yes, and that would be anything that we might be able to do to also make the area more, talking about aesthetics, but also perhaps we can put trees in there or something to make it more a better view for the people that are living close by. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the development process, and the zone itself may have some regulations built in there as well as the general regulations of the zoning bylaw, the landscape buffers and such. Yeah.
All right, thanks. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Thanks, Sarah. All right.
Thank
Correspondence for action. Vernon, Goose Management, they want to comment on that? Go ahead, Councilor Moss.
I think that you and I should go down there for $41,000 and shoot some geese. That's a lot of money to shoot 100 feet.
Yeah, it's interesting. What Penticton did in this case is that they had a real problem with geese, and that's what they did. They opened up a hunting season and they moved about 3/4 of the flock. Councilor Anderson.
Yeah, I'm not fond of this, so, I don't know, I mean, there's gotta be a better way, there's gotta be a system, there's gotta be something that deters the geese, that so they don't wanna hang out there, grow some longer grass so they don't have a sight line, because they like sight lines, like, I don't know. I am not, yeah.
So what happened in Penticton with the geese population and on Scahaw Lake, and they would fly over top of it down, it was messy. I'm telling you, they had to get rid of about 500 geese in order to clean it up because they were a problem. They did. They just opened up a hunting season on these people, got permits, and they went over, they just shot a bunch of geese, and $45,000 to buy all the shots and shows. Go ahead, Councilor.
Through the chair, I lived in Parker Cove, which is all over on the lake. And when I first moved in there, we had maybe 50 geese. They're a migratory bird. They're supposed to go south. But if a couple of them, get hurt or whatever, they decide to hang around. Well, they're social. So a couple more stay. Then they have young, and they stay. Then they have more young, and they stay. It wasn't very long, and that 50 was 150. And the mess they leave everywhere along for you to walk through. It's like tiptoe through the tulips. They tulips. Yeah. So they are a migratory bird. They are supposed to migrate, but they're like the kokanee. Soft guy salmon that got trapped. Now it's become their habit stay. So salmon aren't going on my lawn, but the geese are big birds. Like I had some of the big white swans or snow geese that were in the field behind my place, and I walked over towards them. That when a bird comes up past my belly button that's walking towards me, I'm getting out of the way. So we had coffee.
Thanks for letting me know how they reproduce and how they get to be a flock. I can appreciate that. Our kid, we had geese, we had ganders, we got how to beat out that gander. Like I get the big birds, but I'm just saying that perhaps, and some are supposed to migrate and don't, so you don't know which ones are actually which. I'm just saying there might be a better solution than killing geese. That's all I'm saying.
So basically, this is the city of Vernon, the goose management program, and so we're not actually looking for any support or anything, we're just relaying the message.
No, they're asking for support.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they're asking for. Yeah. They got and this says, on behalf of the city of Vernon, respectfully request that this matter be brought forward for consideration at a future meeting of your respective councils. So they've already passed a resolution. And within their own council. So I don't know.
Oh, so this is support.
The bottom of the resolution is that they contact neighboring jurisdictions to determine if they're interested in investigating the combined effort with egg gathering and or a kill program. So I guess I would see if council would like to investigate a combined
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just, I think Councillor Anderson and Councillor Momus know what they're doing, so we should have them investigate some way of controlling it instead of shooting. Because Councillor Anderson doesn't want to shoot them. And then bring it back to council, and then maybe we'll have another go.
I can't comment on that.
That's a good comment, but go ahead, comment.
I like to support the mayor of Vernon because he supports our community big time. And, but I think there's gotta be a better solution than killing and just relocating. I mean, killing's probably the cheapest way, most effective, quickest and cheapest, but, I mean, we're more important than them.
Go ahead, Councilor.
One other thing, if you read Castanet this morning, this was on Castanet, and it was passed, like their council passed to for killing geese, but Victor Cummings was against it. The mayor is against it. Maybe we need to do some more homework till next week. I don't know what
does this council want to do? Do you want to send a letter to support this resolution? Is that what you want to do?
Through the chair, I know back about 20 years ago, we had dogs banned from our beach park, except for a set number of people that had licenses for their dogs as a goose chasing dog, and they were required to walk their dogs in the park and chase the geese away. I don't know what the current state of that is, but that was our solution at a time. It sounds cheap.
Geese fly this way, then they fly back.
I remember seeing on the internet somewhere, I thought it was Penticton, I'm not sure, but this guy made up this invention. And you drag it behind an ATV or a quad or something, and it sort of just mills up the sand and it scoops up all the geese poop. And just makes one pass in the morning and the beach is clean.
Okay. What about the people's ceilings in their houses and the roofs of their houses? That's what happened in Penticton. This was a big issue in Penticton about 20 years ago. Go ahead.
Through the chair, Councilor McCabe, if you go down the beach with an ATV with a rake behind it, you'll soon find you'll have an MOE guy chasing and you'll get a fine. So you can't even rake the rocks or the weeds off your beach, so it's highly unlikely they're gonna let you rake up.
Okay, let's get to the bottom of this. Are we going to send a resolution? Are we going to send a letter of support in order to support their resolution? Is that what we're going to do? Is that what we want to do? You don't want to support the resolution in regard to figure out? So that he's looking at 150 keys from the Vernon area and estimated for. What do you want to do? Go ahead.
We table it until we get more information.
Okay, that sounds good. Go ahead, Jeff.
I just say we got us correspondence for information. I would respond. That's what I would. If we don't vote resolution for a letter of support, or you just leave it, it's information.
I'm fine with treating it as correspondence, just acknowledge we received it.
So received as correspondence, motion to receive this as correspondence. Do I have a mover on that? Council Bushel, do I have a second? Council Perry? Any more comments on this? Call question, all in favor? Can you ask questions? Go ahead.
Are they good eating?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I go to Saskatchewan about every 4 years and I bring back about 2 dozen of the best eating birds.
You're gonna eat them. But they know they don't allow you, if you kill them, you can't be chased. No, this is just a killed scrap.
My friend tells them all the time.
No, but I mean, for the city of Vernon, if they cull those, they can't distribute them for food.
That's food market.
No, they could have a wet market and. And then we there's COVID all over again.
So correspondence for information on January 27th, the Union of BC Municipalities, the Compass. On January 29th, Shootop Trail Alliance regarding deep winter lockdown silent auction, and February 3rd, of the BC Municipalities, Compass, February 3rd, that was. Anybody want to comment on any of those particular correspondence? Okay, fine, and that's good. So from there then, we're at the end of this particular meeting, but we have to go back into camera. So I'm going to recommend that pursuant to section 91 EK and 92 B of Community Charter, Council exercise authority to move the cameras. Moved by Council Perry, seconded by Councilor Evans, all in favor. We're back in the camera, thank you.